Sponsored by Air Astana, from the heart of Eurasia. Sponsored by the modern, luxurious, intercontinental Almaty Hotel. Sponsored by Snow Queen Organic Vodka. Sponsored by Diplomat Hotel, accommodations in the heart of Astana, Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan. Mention the name to most Americans and you're likely to get blank stares. Most people have no idea that in centuries past, this enormous country, 4 times the size of Texas, 5 times the size of France, gave the world apples, trousers and horses. Or that it's home to the Baikonur Cosmodrome, where rockets carrying communications satellites or cosmonauts heading to the International Space Station are blasted off into the heavens. Nor are they aware that Kazakhstan is the largest landlocked nation on Earth, saddled with the 4th biggest nuclear arsenal in the world, until its leaders voluntarily destroyed those weapons with help from the United States. Or that it ranks today among the world's fastest growing oil exporters. Or that it's a beacon of religious tolerance in Central Asia, with Christians, Jews and other minorities free to pray as they wish in this predominantly Muslim country. Sadly, the only thing most Americans do seem to know about Kazakhstan is that it's the home of the fictional Borat Sagdiyev, a racist anti-Semitic buffoon played by Sacha Baron Cohen, who manages to offend everyone he meets. Despite the movie's silliness, Jean-Balat Usanov, a spokesman for Kazakhstan's foreign ministry, says his government is actually grateful to the British comedian for making his nation famous.
The Americans unfortunately do not know much about Kazakhstan. In that sense, when Borat movie made a big hit about 7 years ago, Kazakhstan was an obscure, absolutely unknown country to the majority of the world. But Borat was sort of a cultural shock to many people outside Kazakhstan, and in that sense he put our country on the map. In terms of substance, Borat of course has nothing to do with Kazakhstan apart from the name. As you would see if you travel to Kazakhstan, if you come to our country is completely different. It's a modern, secular, economically thriving, politically developing society, which we want to bring to the world. This is the image we want to bring to the world. We want the world to understand what is really happening in Kazakhstan.
And what better place to witness that modern, thriving image than Astana, Kazakhstan's futuristic city in the middle of the vast Central Asian steppe. Little more than a provincial mining town and railway junction for most of its existence, Akmola, as it was known during Soviet times, replaced Almaty as Kazakhstan's capital in 1997 and suddenly began booming. Since then, Astana's size has tripled and its population has surpassed 1 million. A cross between Las Vegas and Dubai, its skyline is crowded with unusual structures, ranging from the Presidential National Culture Center, which is marked by a blue dome in the shape of a yurt, to the headquarters of Kazmunai Gaz, Kazakhstan's state-owned oil and gas conglomerate. Even more impressive is the Palace of Peace and Harmony, an inspirational glass pyramid designed by world-renowned architect Norman Foster. So is the $2 billion Nazarbayev University, named after Kazakhstan's first and only president, Nursultan Nazarbayev, who's ruled the country since independence. Incidentally, the university's 1,500 undergrad students pay nothing for their education, and the language of instruction is English. The government is to prepare its young people to compete in the 21st century. Another attraction of Astana is the needle-tipped Can Shutter, a giant transparent tent that towers 150 meters high and covers an area larger than 10 football stadiums. Can Shutter was opened in 2010 at an inauguration party attended by President Nazarbayev and the leaders of 8 other countries, including Russia, Ukraine, Turkey and Jordan. Andrea Bocelli even gave a concert for the occasion. An upscale shopping experience here is made even more memorable with a ride around the Can Shutter's monorail and a visit to the Sky Beach Club, located on the mall's 6th level. Visitors pay 6,000 tenge, about $40, to spend an entire day at this tropical resort, which has palm trees, an artificial lake and even sand imported from the Maldives. It's warm and humid in here, with the temperature maintained at 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit, even when it's minus 40 outside. Not everything in Astana is ultra-modern and glitzy. At the city's art and bazaar, ordinary shoppers can find everything from watermelons and tobacco leaves to camel milk, fresh horse meat and bananas imported from faraway Ecuador. Astana's most iconic structure is the Baytarek Observation Tower, a landmark that reaches 97 meters into the air. Known as the Tree of Life, this was also the president's idea. The tower is based on the ancient Kazakh legend of Samruk, a mythical bird that would lay a golden egg on top of every tree that was out of reach to humans. For the equivalent of a few dollars, visitors can ride elevators to the top of this modern-day monument, which at night is bathed with lights that change colours every few seconds. The money fueling Astana's $10 billion building boom comes entirely from oil and gas. Kazakhstan is believed to hold 3% of world petroleum reserves, and in September, the enormous Kashagan field, the world's largest oil field outside the Middle East, began production after years of delay, with initial exports of 26,000 barrels a day. Eventually, daily production at Kashagan, located in the Caspian Sea, could reach 1.5 million barrels. Making Kazakhstan a bigger oil exporter than Libya, the new oil money has triggered a building boom in the western city of Aktau, where construction cranes dot the skyline of this once sleepy desert town on the shores of the Caspian. That benefits companies like Astrastar LLP, a local drilling contractor for Danish energy conglomerate Maersk Oil. Mukhtar Isatayev, General Director of Astrastar, says his men are now working on the giant onshore Dunga field, about 40 kilometers north of company headquarters in Aktau. Astrastar's contract requires it to drill 198 wells over a 3-year period. So far, Isatayev's workers have completed about 50 wells.
We are very happy that Kashagan starts producing now. So in the future, as a drilling contractor, we will have chance to work over there. I hope that in the near future, Kazakhstan will be one of the big exporters of the oil in the world.
The government is relying on Kashagan, along with the Tengiz and Karachaganak fields, to boost petroleum output 60% by 2020. This would make Kazakhstan one of the world's top 10 oil producers. Such prosperity would never have been imaginable under Soviet rule, says Zar Zarbikan, a history professor at Kimep University.
Being a part of the Soviet Union and being a periphery when the politics and economic policies were done from Moscow and becoming an independent actor in international relations brought Kazakhstan to a totally different level of interactions with the outside world. Kazakhstan has benefited incredibly since independence. You can develop your own political system, you can develop your own economy, you can develop your relations with the outside world.
Almaty, where Kimep University is located, is Kazakhstan's largest city and its financial and cultural capital. During the Soviet era, it was known as Alma-Ata, and until 1997, it was also the country's capital. Almaty, with its green parks and snow-capped mountains in the distance, retains an air of old-world history and elegance that charms visitors from all over the world. It's also filled with communist vestiges of the old USSR. Chief among them is Panfilov Park, named for the 28 soldiers of an Almaty infantry unit who died fighting Nazi tanks during World War II. Panfilov Park is also the home of Kazakhstan's Holy Ascension Cathedral, completed in 1907 and made entirely out of wood. Standing 56 meters high, It's a sacred shrine for Orthodox Christians, who represent 26% of Kazakhstan's population. Bishop Gennadius of Kaskilin, leader of Kazakhstan's Orthodox Christians, says his church has no problem with Islam, though it did have a problem with communism.
Я не могу даже сравнить ситуацию, в которой церковь находилась до принятия независимости и после. Это два разных мира. Церковь обрела подлинную свободу после падения советского режима.
Bishop Gennadius and his Muslim counterpart, Supreme Mufti Mayamarov Yerzan Malgazayevich, gathered with more than 100 other men and women of faith from around the world in late September. The event was the Congress of Leaders of World and Traditional Religions in Astana. The Mufti says President Nazarbayev has managed to keep Islamic fundamentalism and religious extremism in check by promoting peace and tolerance at every opportunity.
Бүгінгі съездің мәнісі өте зор. Құдай қаласа, осы съезімізге міне 10 жыл болды. 10 жылда әрбір дін лидерлері жаңағы жиналыста бір-бірін айтып жатыр. Біз туысқан болып кеттік деп. Сондықтан осы бүгінгі жиынның ерекшелігі барлығы ашық өздерінің ойларын айтып жатыр.
Kairat Lama Sharif, chairman of Government's Agency for Religious Affairs, says Kazakhstan has more than 140 ethnic groups and that conferences on interfaith dialogue and multiculturalism are an important means of bringing people together.
Идея проведения первого съезда лидеров мировых и традиционных религий принадлежит главе нашего государства Нурсултану Абишевичу Назарбаеву. Мы впервые проводили этот съезд в сентябре 2003 года, когда в Астане собрались всего лишь 17 делегаций из 17 стран. Это был самый сложный период в взаимоотношениях во всем мире, так как это проходило после известного печального теракта в Нью-Йорке 11 сентября 2001 года. И было необходимо вести диалог цивилизации. И идея проведения съезда лидеров мировых и традиционных религий была принята, услышана многими представителями различных религиозных конфессий. Один из первых был Ватикан, затем мусульманский мир. И таким образом, спустя 10 лет, на 4-м съезде в 2012 году мы уже собрали 85 делегаций из 40 стран мира.
About 70% of Kazakhstan's 17 million inhabitants are Muslims, a consequence of Islam having been brought to Central Asia by Arabs in the 8th century. Ethnic Kazakhs are predominantly Sunni Muslims of the Hanafi school, while other Muslim groups here include the Uzbeks, Uyghurs and Tatars. During the long years of communism, Soviet authorities suppressed Islamic religious practices, as well as Kazakh national identity. Yet since independence, Islam has enjoyed a rebirth here. Despite its predominance, however, Kazakhstan is a strictly secular state and is the only Central Asian country whose constitution does not assign a special status to Islam. That moderate approach has allowed an even older religion, Judaism, to flourish. Kazakhstan is home to an estimated 40,000 Jews, according to Yeshaya Cohen, the country's Israeli-born chief rabbi and spiritual leader. In 2004, Central Asia's largest synagogue, Beit Rachel, was inaugurated in Astana by President Nazarbayev and Jewish leaders from around the world.
When someone comes over here, if he hears the first time of Kazakhstan, so he's also comparing everything, all the Soviet Unions, all the stands, and it gets mixed and he thinks that's all the same. It's not the same. I was also very afraid when I came here, but I saw with my eyes something different.
The majority of Kazakhstan's Jews reside not in Astana, but in Almaty. One of the most famous graves in that city's sprawling cemetery is that of Rabbi Levi Yitzhak Schneerson, father of the late Lubavitcher Rebbe of New York. The elder Schneerson was tortured by Stalin and exiled to Kazakhstan, where he died in 1944. But today, Jewish communal life flourishes in all major cities, and everything from kosher food to Hebrew language studies are making a comeback as Kazakh Jews gradually reconnect with their roots. And unlike the case in most other former Soviet republics, anti-Semitism barely exists here.
I walk in the street in Kazakhstan already since 1994, and I never even once didn't hear like something not good words about Jews, about our community, and I'm proud and thank God that I'm here in Kazakhstan.
Religious extremism may not be an issue here, and it's rare to see women in veils or hijabs as might be expected in countries with a Muslim majority. Western-style rap and hip-hop are both very popular in Kazakhstan, as is local Kazakh folk music, all of which are traditionally enjoyed at outdoor music festivals throughout the country. Yet other obstacles have stood in the way of Kazakhstan's development.
Just like any other country which tries to build up an independent political system, which inherited quite a lot from the Soviet period, Kazakhstan faced lots of challenges, environmental, political, economic. It had to build up an independent economy. It had to build up an independent legal system. And of course, Kazakhstan, differently from other Central Asian and post-Soviet states, inherited some peculiar issues.
One of the most urgent of those issues was the Soviet nuclear arsenal. During the Cold War, the Kremlin conducted nearly 500 tests of atomic weapons at the Semipalatinsk polygon test facility in northeastern Kazakhstan. Over a 40-year period, more than 1 million Kazakhs were exposed to the horrible effects of radiation without their knowledge or consent. Health problems today range from birth defects and premature aging to cancer, deformities and thyroid diseases.
Back in 1991, Kazakhstan became independent. And at that time, at time of independence, we inherited a nuclear arsenal from the Soviet Union that was fourth largest in the world at that time. And I believe that we have set a very important example for the rest of the world by giving up that nuclear arsenal voluntarily. We're grateful to our partners, to Russia and the United States, who helped us both financially and technically in getting rid of this nightmare legacy that we had in our territory.
Another enduring nightmare is that of the Aral Sea, which straddles Kazakhstan's southern border with Uzbekistan. Once half the size of England, the Aral Sea helped save Russia from famine after World War I by supplying the country with fish. Murals in the town of Aralsk attest to that fact. But these days, the once mighty lake is no bigger than Rhode Island. Generations of mismanagement by Soviet engineers bent on boosting cotton exports forced the diversion of the two rivers that fed the Aral. The result was an ecological catastrophe that has slashed the lake's area by 90% and its volume by 85% since 1960. Christopher White, who teaches economic geography at Almaty's Kimep University, discusses the problem.
Well, certainly it is an environmental disaster. Salinity levels within the Aral Sea have skyrocketed. Environmentally speaking, of course, this means that all of the various fish and other species, habitats have been destroyed, declines in species numbers. And so certainly this is an environmental problem. And we also can say that with the recession of the sea, there's also been, what we call a desiccation, encroaching deserts. An entire desert landscape has replaced where much of the sea was.
But hope is in the air, thanks to a $250 million project funded by the World Bank and the Kazakh government, and a 13-kilometre-long dam built in 2005 at a cost of $85 million. The idea is to guide the northern Aral Sea, still 20 kilometres away from the town of Aralsk, back to the old harbour through a complex system of locks and dams. Fish have returned to the Aral, and today salinity levels are back down to 14 grams per litre, not far from the 1960 levels.
Most recently in 2011, I was part of an international expedition out there. We went around the entire northern Aral Sea, talked to folks in some of these very remote villages, some of which have only recently gotten electricity as of 2009. We also noticed, well, first of all, people were continually using these terms, hope, optimism. There's a general positive outlook for the future, which I don't think has been the case around the Aral Sea for a long time.
Adds government spokesman Usanov.
We of course understood that we wouldn't be able to save the sea on our own, so we created an international Save the Aral Fund. We have invited World Bank and individual countries to help us with tackling that challenge. And I'm happy to say today that Aral Sea is slowly returning back to its original boundaries.
Meanwhile, Kazakhstan is focusing on slashing its economic dependence on oil and gas, even though petrodollars are helping finance the Aral Sea recovery project. Tourism is a growing source of revenue, with global hospitality brands such as Renaissance and Intercontinental already present in cities like Almaty, Astana and Aktau. Air Astana, Kazakhstan's leading airline, links all major destinations through an impressive domestic route. And both Almaty and Astana are served by modern, sophisticated international airports that connect once remote Kazakhstan to Europe and the Far East. In fact, Kazakhstan's geographic location, once a curse, is actually turning out to be a huge advantage, with vast Russia to the north and China's 1.4 billion consumers to the east.
Of course, it's a challenge to be sandwiched between two giants. However, at the same time, we like looking at it as an opportunity. Russia is one of our biggest trading partners. It is a growing economy, it is a growing power, and you know that it is always easier to live with a stronger neighbor than with a weaker neighbor, because if a neighbor is hit by some sort of a problem, you would inevitably be hit by the same kind of problem that your neighbor has. At the same time, China is also a booming, thriving economy that has the ambition to become very shortly the biggest economy in the world.
Altinea Arapova is the North American Regional Director for Kaznes Invest, the government entity aimed at bringing badly needed foreign investment and jobs to Kazakhstan, where wages still average only $600 per month.
Our agency, the National Agency for Export Investment, was created in order to diversify the national economy through promoting domestic export and attracting foreign direct investments. Kazakhstan needs to diversify its natural-based, oil and gas-based economy, because the natural resources will not last so long.
At present, more than 50% of Kazakhstan's GDP is energy-based. But Kaznex is currently working on attracting investments in 12 other sectors. These include agriculture, machinery, metallurgy, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, aerospace, tourism and light industry. Incidentally, Kazakhstan recently surpassed Canada and Australia to become the world's top producer of uranium, a key fuel in nuclear power plants. One of Kazakhstan's best-known exports, besides oil, happens to be another popular liquid, vodka. And its most famous brand is Snow Queen Vodka, distilled and bottled in the northwestern city of Aktobe, only 100 kilometers from the Russian frontier. Snow Queen is unusual in that it's produced from organic wheat and artisan spring water from the foothills of the Himalayas. Kazakh birch charcoal is also used in the premium vodka's 5-step distillation process. Factory manager Dmitry Abubakarov says his 700 workers produce 50,000 bottles of vodka per day. That's equivalent to 1 million litres of vodka per month, though at present, exports account for only 2% of production. About half of those exports are transported by train to Russia, with another 40% to Great Britain, and the remaining 10% to the United States. The distillery itself utilises mostly Russian technology, though Italian, German and American companies are also involved in the manufacturing process. The Snow Queen folks must be doing something right. In April 2007, the liquor magazine Imbibe named it the best overall vodka, and the following year, Snow Queen was awarded the top vodka prize at the 2008 San Francisco World Spirits Competition. In that spirit, Kazakhstan hopes its political stability, low risk and geographic location will further boost exports to the benefit of all its citizens.
Kazakhstan is the 9th largest country in the world, blessed with the natural resources, and the political stability and economic growth is the core values of Kazakhstan on global investment market. And the GDP per capita in Kazakhstan is the highest among the CIS countries. It's 12,000 per capita. And the location of Kazakhstan, I think, is one of the benefits for investors. We border with China and Russia, with the biggest markets in the world. In 2010, Kazakhstan entered into the customs union with Russia and Belarus, and the capacity of the total market is 170 million people, and this is beneficial for investors as they can freely promote their products into Russia and Belarus market, producing their products, for example, in Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan still faces major challenges. Government officials admit that building a new democracy is a work in progress, as President Nazarbayev himself is fond of saying. But it also has much to look forward to. In December 2016, Kazakhstan will celebrate its 25th anniversary of independence. And the following year, Astana will host Expo 2017, an international exposition whose theme is future energy. Between 2 to 3 million people are expected to converge on the capital city, marking the first time a major international event of this type is held in any former Soviet republic. Meanwhile, Kazakhstan is doing all it can to attract foreign tourists, including Americans. Negotiations are underway to reduce visa restrictions and open direct air routes between the two countries. Kairat Umarov, Kazakhstan's ambassador to the United States, says his country has so much to offer tourists, from extreme sports like mountain skiing to rock climbing, to farms where visitors can enjoy traditional pastimes like fishing and eagle hunting. We recently caught up with Ambassador Umarov at the Kazakh embassy in Washington, which President Nazarbayev visited in September 2006. During that visit, Kazakhstan's head of state dedicated a statue of a young warrior soaring on a winged snow leopard. The bronze monument symbolizes Kazakhstan's rich history and its blossoming political, economic and military relationship with the United States.
Kazakhstan and the United States has a strategic partnership which was established in 2006. From that time on, the partnership has been growing wider and deeper. We are cooperating with the United States on many issues, regional, bilateral, international, and this partnership is on very serious matters like nuclear non-proliferation, disarmament. We are talking about investments, we're talking about democratic development in the country, we're talking about science and technology.
Ambassador Umarov says the 22-year-old Republic of Kazakhstan has a lot to learn from the United States, and that Kazakhstan should be the first choice for American corporations, large and small, that are thinking of investing in Central Asia.
Why Kazakhstan is interesting for the US companies? I should say that they should come to Kazakhstan because of the great opportunities and possibilities in Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan not only looks for investment, but Kazakhstan is co-financing, matching the funds. Sometimes we can invest ourselves into the projects which are of great interest for us. So in Kazakhstan, we are ready for investments. We would like to see more of US companies, better in high-tech area. It could be other areas as well because we're diversifying very much. So we're looking forward to the US investments, to the US companies to come. We would like to work with you. We would like to help Kazakhstan to grow faster.